You've been told a story about first impressions. It goes like this: smile, make eye contact, give a firm handshake, say the right things, and people will form a positive opinion of you. That story is incomplete. And the part that's missing is the part that actually determines where you land in the invisible hierarchy that every human being constructs within the first 7 seconds of meeting someone new. Because what's happening in those 7 seconds isn't a conscious evaluation. It isn't a checklist being run through. It's something far older, far faster, and far less rational than that. It's a threat and status assessment that your nervous system inherited from ancestors who needed to answer one question instantly about every new person they encountered. Are you above me, below me, or level with me? That question gets answered before a single word is spoken, before the handshake lands, before the smile forms. And once it's answered, it calculates something that determines almost everything that follows. How much weight your words carry, how much benefit of the doubt you receive, how much resistance you encounter when you ask for something, how quickly people defer to you or dismiss you. This is the invisible hierarchy. And whether you're aware of it or not, you are being ranked inside it every single time you enter a room. The mechanism underneath. The human brain is not a single system. It is several systems running simultaneously at different speeds, processing different kinds of information and arriving at different conclusions, often before the conscious mind has had any involvement at all. The system responsible for first impressions is not the rational, deliberate, language processing part of your brain. It's the threat detection system, the part that evolved to answer survival critical questions in milliseconds. And that system doesn't listen to your words. It reads your body. Specifically, it reads for 2 things, almost exclusively in the first 7 seconds: warmth and competence. These are not arbitrary categories invented by social psychologists. They are the 2 axes that the evaluating brain has always used to place people in the social hierarchy, because they map directly onto the 2 most important survival questions. Can this person help me or hurt me? And can they actually deliver on either? Warmth answers the first question. Competence answers the second. And here's what most people get wrong. They optimize for one at the expense of the other. The warmth trap. Most people, when they want to make a good first impression, instinctively reach for warmth. They smile more, they nod more, they agree more. They make themselves smaller, more accommodating, more eager to please. And what happens? The other person's brain registers warmth, but registers low competence at the same time, because warmth without any signal of capability or self-possession reads, beneath conscious awareness, as eager but not particularly formidable. Nice, but not someone whose judgment I need to take seriously. Available, but not someone I'd go to in a real situation. The warmth trap is the single most common mistake in first impression management, and it's almost invisible because it feels virtuous from the inside. You're being friendly, you're being open, you're making people comfortable. What you don't realize is that you're also signaling something else entirely. The competence trap. The other error runs in the opposite direction. Some people, particularly in professional contexts, optimize entirely for competence signals. They project authority. They speak with precision and efficiency. They demonstrate mastery. And the brain of the person across from them registers competence, but flags low warmth at the same time. And low warmth in the evaluating brain is not just neutral, it is a mild threat signal. This person is capable, but I don't know if they're safe. They might use that capability against my interests. The result is a particular kind of respect, the kind that keeps people at a distance. Compliance without trust, deference without loyalty. It works in some contexts. It fails, often catastrophically, in any context where genuine cooperation, vulnerability, or long-term relationship is required. What the 7-second window actually reads. The evaluating brain doesn't read your resume. It doesn't read your credentials. It reads signals. And those signals come almost entirely from your body before your mouth has had any meaningful input. Posture. An upright, open, unhurried posture signals that you are not in a state of low-level threat response. You are not braced. You are not contracted. You are not trying to make yourself smaller to avoid notice. That translates below conscious awareness as this person is comfortable with their own presence, which is one of the most reliable proxies for social status the evaluating brain uses. Movement speed. People under social pressure move faster. They fill silences faster. They respond faster. They exit pauses faster. And every single one of those accelerations is a legible signal that says, I am monitoring for danger. I need to manage your perception of me. The person with genuine social authority doesn't rush. They allow pauses. They move at the speed of someone who has decided before arriving that they belong in the room. Eye contact quality, not duration, quality. There is a difference between the eye contact of someone who is checking whether you approve of them and the eye contact of someone who is simply looking at you because they are interested in what you're saying. The first registers as slightly anxious, the second registers as secure, and security in the evaluating brain reads as status, voice tonality. The voice drops at the end of statements made by people who are secure in their position. The voice rises at the end of statements made by people seeking approval. This is not a minor detail. It is one of the single most legible status signals the human voice produces, and it operates entirely below the level of conscious detection in the listener. You may not notice that someone's voice is rising at the end of every sentence, but your evaluating brain noticed, and it has already made a judgment. The compounding effect. Here is where it gets interesting. The ranking that gets assigned in the first 7 seconds is not fixed, but it is sticky. Because of a mechanism called confirmatory processing, the brain's tendency to interpret subsequent information in a way that confirms the initial assessment rather than revising it. If you're ranked high in the first 7 seconds, the same behavior that would register as arrogance in someone ranked low registers as confidence in you. The same silence that would read as awkwardness in someone ranked low reads as composure in you. The same mistake that would permanently damage the credibility of someone ranked low gets attributed to circumstance in you. This is not fair. It is also not random. It is a predictable, well-documented cognitive bias called the halo effect, and understanding it changes how you think about the first 7 seconds entirely. The goal is not to seem impressive. The goal is to establish a default frame, a baseline reading, that causes everything that follows to be interpreted through a favorable lens, the single variable that drives the ranking. Underneath warmth, competence, posture, movement speed, eye contact, and voice, there is a single variable that the evaluating brain is actually trying to assess. It isn't confidence exactly. It isn't status exactly. It is settledness. The quality of a person who has already resolved, before entering the interaction, the question of whether they belong there. Not arrogance, which is unsettled in its own way, requiring external validation to maintain itself. Not performance, which the evaluating brain detects almost immediately and registers as a red flag. But the quiet, functional certainty of someone who is not waiting for the room to tell them who they are. That settledness, expressed through body, movement, voice, and presence, is what the evaluating brain reads as rank, and it produces warmth and competence signals simultaneously, without either needing to be consciously performed. Because someone who is genuinely settled doesn't need to perform warmth. They're not trying to be liked, so they can actually pay attention to the person in front of them, which reads as warmth more authentically than any smile ever could, and they don't need to perform competence. They're not trying to prove anything, so their communication is direct, unhurried, and clear, which reads as competence more accurately than any credential ever could. Where this goes wrong. This principle gets misread consistently in one specific direction. People hear settled presence and translate it into performed settled presence. They slow their movements deliberately. They deepen their voice consciously. They hold eye contact longer than feels natural. And the evaluating brain, which evolved specifically to detect the difference between real and performed status signals, reads it immediately, not as settled, as trying to seem settled, which is its own kind of signal, and not a flattering one. The fix is not a technique. The fix is a shift in internal orientation. Before you enter a room, before you begin a conversation, before the 7 seconds start, the question worth asking is not how do I want to come across? It's have I already decided before this starts that I'm allowed to be here? Because that decision made internally before any of it begins is what produces settled presence, and settled presence is what produces rank. So here's the question worth sitting with. The next time you're about to walk into a room, a meeting, an interview, a first conversation with someone new, notice what's happening in your body before you enter. Are you braced? Are you monitoring for threats? Are you already constructing the version of yourself you want them to see? Or have you already decided, quietly, without performance, that you belong there? Because the 7 seconds don't start when you open your mouth. They start the moment you arrive. And whoever you are before you speak, that's who they're going to rank.